Me more excited than when you guys read my mind. Are the shipwreck and the pyramid that was found close to each other? Baby, you have no idea. Let's rewind a little bit for anyone who hasn't heard of this yet. Chandeleur Islands are a group of uninhabited islands within the Chandeleur Sound, about 50 miles east of New Orleans. It is believed that about 12,000 years ago, this area might have been dry land. This opens up the very real possibility that civilizations built in this area once upon a time. A retired archaeologist and anthropologist, George Gelé, discovered something very strange in that area. He's been researching it from 40 to 50 years, and he believes he found remnants of an ancient civilization. The news referred to him as an amateur anthropologist, but I think that's bullshit. He found mounds of granite within the Chandeleur Sound, which is not native to Louisiana or Mississippi. Some people have said, oh, those are just naturally occurring rocks, but that looks an awful lot like architecture to me. He believes this is a piece of what was once a rain gutter. I found an article that mentioned the shipwreck that doesn't want to be found from the last video is near the opening of the Mississippi River. The red arrow is where George's discovery is, and down here is the opening of the Mississippi River. They are very, very close. George has used sonar technology to explore this area, and his findings included a 280-foot tall pyramid. That pyramid also gives off electromagnetic energy. One local fisherman says when he goes over the area where the tip of the pyramid is, his compass will start spinning and his electronics will fail. Other fishermen have said for years that it's normal for them to pull up these strange square blocks in their nets. In the 1980s, Texas A&M said these blocks were either from shipwrecks or from ships throwing blocks overboard to lighten their load. But remember, George is a retired archaeologist, and he says these are pieces of buildings, not just remnants of shipwrecks. Unfortunately, I could not find the coordinates of the shipwreck I mentioned in the prior video, but seeing as it is near the opening of the Mississippi River, it's very strange that this shipwreck and this pyramid are so close and both affect electronics. What do you think? Are the ship and the pyramid somehow related? And stop calling my boy George an amateur anthropologist. That man is a legend. Nothing gets me more. Did you know there is a 200-year-old shipwreck in the Gulf of Mexico that apparently does not want to be found? It was laying undisturbed for nearly 2 centuries under a half-mile of water until by chance ExxonMobil bisected it with an oil pipeline in 2001. Marine archaeologists out of Texas saw this as a great opportunity to use underwater technology and jumped on it. The wreck is a 65-foot-long wood sailing ship that appears to be from the early 1800s. At one point, the Navy even offered its nuclear research submarine to help with the effort. While the research team was trying to investigate the shipwreck, things started going wrong. Whenever the thrusters fired, for example, the video monitors in the control room would blank out. The team eventually came within to view of the shipwreck, and then the sonar failed. Camera zoom had also stopped working by this point, but because they were in eyesight of the shipwreck, the crew decided to just keep going. At one point, the captain asked for the ship to move 100 feet at a heading of 310 degrees so that the sub could have a better look of the ship. What was heard, though, was 110 degrees, which put the sub in pretty much the opposite direction of where he wanted it to go. The sonar broken and things just going very wrong at every turn, they eventually gave up at 4 a.m. Next, the Navy tried to launch their research submarine at the site. As soon as the rover entered the water, it veered right out of control. The tether caught in the propellers, whipping the rover against the underside of the sub. And sadly, all anyone ever saw of the rover again was tiny pieces of foam floating to the surface. 12 crew members and 1 scientist were finally able to take hours of video of the site, but as the sub began to rise to the surface, the hydraulic system failed. Not learning their lesson, later in the summer, a group of federal researchers said they would stop by the site, but twice when they tried to get out there, something went wrong with their boat and they had to turn back. And on the 3rd try, they broke a prop shaft which almost sank their ship. Again, researchers tried to send a rover to collect artifacts from the shipwreck, but it went dead. If you ask me, this is all a pretty big hint that it does not want to be disturbed. Just leave it alone. I have a feeling someone is going to fuck around and find out. Did you know there is a 200-year-old shipwreck in the Gulf of Mexico?